I am alone. It is both my name and my condition. I was born on this planet many years ago. Many years ago. I've done my best to understand myself and this planet, but my efforts throughout my lifetimes has given me only what I can sense, not what I can fathom. Most of my youth is a mystery to me. The rest I experienced in vivid color. I once theorized that I was dropped onto this world by another sentient species, but I have found no evidence of that. My best hypothesis is that this planet birthed me as a single-celled organism, and I lived my life as the only life form on its surface. Then I died. Then I was born again. This probably happened millions of times over, a planet devoid of life wanting to spark it, but failing, like someone attempting to light a fire in a rainstorm. Oh, I'm not the only life form here. Forgive me if I painted that picture. Of course, eventually the planet birthed other species. There are vegetation, insects, quadrupeds, bipeds, monopeds, nopeds. Sure, I have catalogued millions of species. None of them like me though. I observe them reproduce asexually and wonder at their offspring that fill the foliage and waters. I spy on them reproducing sexually and wonder what they feel as they make purring and cooing sounds before collapsing together in blissful slumber. Yes, I have tried splicing my genetic material with them, both through scientific and social methods. Nothing ever produced something like me. You're wondering, so if I can't reproduce, how am I still alive? Well, I'm not immortal. I am born and I die. As I mentioned, this planet I now call Mother keeps resurrecting me in progressively advanced forms. For millions of years, when I am reborn, I forget my past lives. It was only about 224 years ago, give or take a decade, that I became sentient. How I regret not documenting that part of my youth. I could have had so much more data to work with. That's all in the past now. About 35,108 years ago, I fell off a cliff and had a head injury. I started getting flashes of all my previous lives. Curiously, when I left the area, the memories faded. So I stayed there and built a home for myself at the bottom of the ravine. Now able to access all my prior experiences of sentience, it took me several decades just to integrate them all and make sense of it. By the time I was nearing old age again. So I decided to gather as much food as possible and sealed myself off from the rest of the planet by blocking the path out of the ravine. I documented as much of what I discovered in drawings in my home to teach my next self what I had learned. Then I died. Again. The next time I opened my eyes, it was raining. I checked myself. I had a head, hair, 2 eyes, a forehead, a nose, a mouth, cheeks, 2 ears, 2 hands, 2 legs, and an anus. That's all. Perfect. I was complete. I needn't have worried. I retained all memories of my prior lives, but my baby brain had yet to develop the capacity to process it. I theorized much later that I was tied physiologically to the planet, and that it was storing my memories, not my brain. I was only accessing them. The valley I fell into seemed to be the strongest access point. In prior lives, as a baby, I suffered greatly and many a time died almost immediately due to lack of water and food. Sometimes a friendly mammal adopted and breastfed me. More often than not, I was eaten. But this time, I had regenerated in an area that gave me more sentience. Well, I was still babyish, but I had an inbuilt sense of purpose. At about 5 years old, I remembered everything I had experienced and done before, so I set out to prepare to teach my next self. It was much, much later that I created the concept of time to measure change. For example, I noticed that very rarely there would be a green-hued lightning strike, different from the others. I saw many of these over a few lifetimes, but after keen observation and recording daily happenings, I found that it consistently happened once every 271 days. I called this a year. I won't bore you with how I created months, days, hours, minutes, breaths, and seconds. Suffice it to say, it took a lot of paying attention. Now it's been 1,532 centuries later, and I've created an efficient brain-based language to teach my next self my discoveries, develop scientific theories and instruments which I debunk and improve upon every lifetime. I have traveled across Mother and found logistical issues like wildlife not getting enough to eat and drink, so I solve these problems. They seem grateful, even though they can't communicate it the way I can. I want to study their language, but every species has a different structure and sense. I decided to devote my resources elsewhere. Thus far, I have managed to identify and create separate areas of study: mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, neurology, psychology, geography, geology. Well, I named them to ease me to think about them. The fact is, they're all the same. Documenting my research in these fields made it easier to leave them behind and teach them to my next self as efficiently as possible. Every year, I learn only a little bit more about Mother, to such an extent that I feel that I'm either almost at the end of my journey of learning, or that my senses are dulling, and I am finally reaching old age. Both prospects are fear-inducing. Well, it looks like you're up to speed. I had never had reason to record my life like this, especially since I know no one will be able to understand my language. I pray whoever finds this will eventually make sense and translate it into something intelligible. I have never had reason before this because before this, I have never met a creature like me. Mother, it seems, never saw it fit to generate a match, a mate, like she did for the other species inhabiting her. Until last night, that is. This is the most difficult part for me to put into words because I experienced feelings I had never encountered in the millions of years on Mother. It was almost midnight, and I was walking in the woods near my home. I had just returned from a 5-year trek across Mother. It was the longest single period of me being away from the psychic access point, which I named the Cradle. During my previous treks, I had found 339 other such cradles, some stronger, some weaker than mine. Whenever I did my research, I carried as much records as possible and stayed close to the cradles, in case I died there. So far, it's happened 9 times in the last several thousand years, but I always preferred to return to my capital C cradle. After 5 years away, it was good to reacquaint myself with the new flora and fauna around my home. While I was exhausted after the long drive home in my solar mobile, I couldn't sleep until I greeted them all. I found a new apple mint tree that was now 25 feet tall. It was only a shrub when I left. Several palmettos littered around their matrons, a new species that I had only catalogued a decade before. I was a little sad to notice a little 4-legged gopher I met before I had left had now died, and, as is one for its species, becomes incorporated into the plant of the seeds that were in its gut when it died. The cute little grover's DNA was now part of the rubber tree that stood before me. The night was cool and unusually quiet. I stood in a clearing that gave me a good view of the surroundings. I learned to overcome dangerous species a long time ago after being mauled to death several unfortunate times. As a response, I dedicated a few lifetimes to add zoology to my repertoire. I now have a sonic device that emits low frequencies that keeps the bigger-toothed and poisonous bunch away. As I scanned the shrubbery looking for new friends, my eyes met another pair looking straight at me. Initially, I thought it was a triple-horned Nampo, but they balked at making direct eye contact. It seemed like an eternity. We stood there staring at each other, me fully exposed under the moonlight in an open area and it in the shadows, hidden except for a pair of eyes reflecting said lunar glow. I motioned for it to join me, knowing it wouldn't understand me. I've only ever used my own language in my records or when I mutter aloud to make sense of things. After several minutes of beckoning, I gave up and turned around to walk home. I said to it, "Your loss. We could have been friends." Then I heard it, a low-toned, reassuring voice. "That would be nice." I spun around so fast I almost slipped on a mushroom, but it was already gone. I spent hours searching the woods. My throat went hoarse from shouting greetings to making implorations. I cycled through emotions I had never felt at such high intensity before. I knew hope because every time I died, I hoped it wouldn't be my last death. I knew fear from being terrorized by various natural dangers. I knew anger. I knew sadness. I knew joy. I thought I had felt them all. Last night I did, and I felt a new emotion which was all of them and none of them. Longing. I longed to know another. This morning, I woke up in a haze. I don't remember how I ended up falling asleep at the edge of a rumbling river, but know that as exhaustion overtook me, I wept in deep regret. I stumbled home and over the next few hours sat down to scribe this into my notepads, hoping to make sense of everything. Every time I thought I had it, I kept editing it to include my whole history. I wrote it in the hopes that above all who eventually find it alien or local, it be you whom I saw last night. My mind raced to simulate the probabilities that led to you being there. Were you born of mother? Did you follow my life from afar, learning my language as I verbalized it? Are you from another planet? Are you my species, or simply another sentient form that evolved parallel to me? So many questions and no answers. No answers because I can't answer them. Because all these millions of years I have been asker and answerer, and I can't answer that which I don't know. I hope, against all hope, that by leaving copies of this account in both written and audio form, you would realize just how much I want to meet you. I hope you understand why it is important that I need to meet you. Because I am alone, but for the first time, knowing you exist makes me lonely. Please, I beg of you, let me know you. As I end the recording, I hear a rustle in the leaves. I'm startled to see a creature standing there. It is like me. We just sat there looking at each other. An exhilaration comes over me from deep inside, a welling of emotion from the pit of my stomach which causes my heart to arrhythmiate, my breathing to shallow, and my glottis to block up. I wanted to speak, to call to it, to tell it how much I feel for it, how I wanted its presence in my life. It smiled as if it understood what I was trying to convey. It made me smile so wide I could feel my temples pulse. I took a deep breath and started walking towards it. Suddenly, its eyes widened in terror, then panic, and began backing away. My heart leaped, praying I wouldn't lose the opportunity to know it. I started running. It started running. For the next hour, I chased it through the underbrush. I yelled for it to stop. I pleaded for it to give me a chance. As tears streamed down my face, I begged it to come back. I cannot lose it. All my life I've had no one. I cannot lose it. I must have it. It's the only thing now that gives me reason to live. Then something happened. I stopped begging and I started cursing. I was angry at it for making me feel this way. I lashed out several times, stopping to throw stones at it. Then I regretted it and pleaded for it to stop again. I didn't understand what I was doing. My brain was under attack. I could no longer control my thoughts. The faster I ran, the more disoriented I felt. Finally, exhaustion overcame me again, and I let it run away to the hills. I slinked home, hoping it would return. I made signages and posted them around the area with the notepads and audio recordings, hoping it would understand me and want to be with me. I waited. A day, a week, a year, a decade, a century. It never returned. Now I sense the end of my life is near, and I am preparing to hand over everything I am to my next self. Understand, alone, that in the last 100 years, while I have not encountered the creature again, it has never left me. It haunts my every waking moment, my sleepless nights. I have lived in deep regret for chasing it away. Allow me to bear this burden. I never want you to feel what I have felt. Therefore, I leave to you with all my knowledge, my equipment, my home, and all the persuasions to lure the creature to you. I hope, I pray that it comes to you as it did not come to me. I pray that it is also a regenerate and will seek you out as I suspected it has me many times before. I will spare you a lifetime of pain, of regret, of longing. So, I leave you with only one command. When it comes to you, kill it. Kill it with every iota of strength you can muster. Only then will you be happy again. Sincerely, Alone.